there's a massive problem right now in the NFL, I should say, with running back contracts. Austin Ekeler, a few weeks ago, it was announced that the Chargers gave him permission to seek a trade because he's trying to get a new contract and the Chargers are not really budging. From their perspective, that's where the market is right now. From Eckler's perspective, how much do I have to contribute to the team, be one of the best fantasy players in the country, play an inordinate amount of snaps, lead the team in rushing? I believe he led the team in catches, too, because he was just constantly, like for some reason that offense was just atrocious, and they were like screen to Eckler, but also run the ball. And
just want to be clear, I think if I'm not mistaken, also he led the team either in rushing or receiving touchdowns. I mean, he led the Chargers in rushing or receiving touchdowns, or both. He had over 1,000, or maybe even 1,500 all-purpose yards. I would have to double check that. But all that is to say, he was, Justin Herbert aside, the engine of the Chargers offense.
Absolutely.
He was almost the entire...
unsustainable. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
That's the problem. He was all, by sheer volume, he was essentially the engine of the Chargers offense.
And with that volume also comes a toll on his body and his ability to get paid more, which is the time for him to cash in on his talent is this finite window for him to make money for his family for the rest of his life, wealth that is supposed to last throughout his life, coming from billionaires who don't fucking need it, right? This is why you always side with players in contract disputes, like 99.9% of the time. And Eckler explains it really well, how awful the market is for running backs right now.
Bro, it's brutal out here, man.
Yeah.
Like it's terrible.
Yeah.
As far as the running back market and how we're getting treated right now,
yeah.
What do we got to do to get paid as running backs to our actual value and not just be getting a few mil when we're out here? Like I said, literally scored 20 touchdowns last year, 1,600 all-purpose yards, right? And I can't get an extension. You're like, you don't want me here?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, am I missing something here? What am I missing? So it's confusing and frustrating at the same time.
Well, I'm very frustrated for him. He's scheduled to make $6.25 million in base salary for NFL purposes, given the amount that league makes. That is ridiculous, and his contributions to the offense. And we need to start getting creative. Like, I understand one of the problems with the NFL Players Union, which union representation is essential. But there are a few biases within the NFLPA that are just inherent to the fact that it's a union that represents players of all stripes. One is that they are more tilted towards veteran players because when you're in union leadership, you're a veteran player for the most part. Like, there aren't a lot of rookies coming in being their team rep. They're usually guys that have been in the league a long time, understand how the league works, and so I don't think that they secure the guarantees for the rookies, the younger players coming out of college on their first contracts, in the way that they should when you compare it to the veteran players. But for when it comes to the other issue, is that they're representing players of all position groups. All position groups, from the quarterback making $45 million a year, 150, 130 in guaranteed money, whose value keeps going up and up and up every year. Like, Patrick Mahomes' $45 million is going to look like nothing in a few years once this gambling money gets into the cap and the TV and streaming deals continue to rake in cash. But they also represent running backs. Running backs have a problem because once their rookie deal is over, and this also ties into my point about the difficulty of the union not necessarily being more favorable towards the players coming into the league initially, they get played for 4 years. They might be a fourth-round pick, making $600,000, $700,000 in an initial contract. I don't know, like a couple $100,000 a year. then by the time it comes to get their second contract, which is when you get paid in the NFL, that's when you actually make decent money for professional athlete standards, and you're able to change your life going forward. By that time, running backs are sometimes so beat up that they're unable to secure a second contract. And Eckler's an even more extreme case.
He was undrafted.
Yeah, so he gets paid nothing. He got the second contract. Right. It's still peanuts in comparison to like a wide receiver is going to be making $25 million a year and putting up very similar numbers. He's making $6.25 million a year. Can't get a new contract from the Chargers after they've run his body into the ground.
Also, by virtue of how they play the game.
Yes.
Like, he is overused to the point of, like, exhaustion because of how kind of one-dimensional and uncreative their offense is, which is no knock on Ekeler. Like he said in the video, 20 touchdowns, 1,600 all-purpose yards. He had a fantastic season.
Yeah.
But they also are... The discrepancy between how much they're paying him and how much usage he gets is absurd.
It's absurd, and it's unsustainable. And... The problem is that there needs to be an exemption in the collective bargaining agreement, and the union needs to get on this quickly for the running back position. Because, first of all, young kids are not going to play running back anymore. They're going to go to other positions, and eventually I think that's going to hurt the sport. Two, the NFL loves fantasy football. Loves it. Because I'm sure even if you're watching this and you're a casual football fan, say you're in a fantasy league in your office pool or something like that, you're going to be more inclined to watch a football game because of fantasy. 100%.
Absolutely.
That's brought so many people to this sport. He's one of the stars of fantasy, Austin Ekeler. How is he not compensated for that? The value that he's providing to the league in terms of eyeballs. It's because he's a running back based on the position. And there needs to be an exemption for running backs coming out of college that they have a 2-year deal as a rookie or something like that. Or a 3-year deal, not 4 with a 5th-year option that the team can exercise if it's a first-round pick, something like that. A way to get out of that deal. Or, I'm just getting creative, a league-wide fund based on yardage or production that just goes directly to these running backs outside of normal cap circumstances, funded by some extra money that the NFL I know has lying around. Or make running back contracts fully guaranteed or something like that. Just there needs to be something that changes because this is not cool. This is not right. It's exploitive. The amount that they're using him and other running. Dameon Pierce is a great example.
Right.
The only player on the Texans worth a damn last year, besides Tunsil. I mean, who knows when he's going to be in a position in 4 years to get paid? Exactly. Will he be? And he's a 4th-round pick.
And 2 other examples, and I think for me, this with running backs and also offensive linemen, because there's no distinguishing between positions, I think this exposes how fundamentally unfair the franchise tag is and how in need of reform the franchise tag is.
But
Josh Jacobs,
the owners, they're not getting
it's their pet
Make
pet
running
project.
backs exempt. You can't
tag them.
Can't tag
something
a
like
running
that.
back.
Or raise the tag floor or raise the cap of the tag. Like it has to be more than $10-12 million. I mean, Josh Jacobs, all pro running back Josh Jacobs, another engine of an offense that would be kind of nothing or kind of unrecognizable without his performance. Over 2,000 all-purpose yards, got the tag, $10 million.
That's it. Same with Saquon Barkley.
Jacoby Myers is making comparable money, and Jacoby Myers is not even just on. It's hard to compare 2 different position groups, but Josh Jacobs is infinitely more important to the Raiders than Jacoby Myers was to the Patriots.
Yeah,
last year.
He's a good slot receiver, but I mean, like that, but not. What
he's getting 3 years.
Jacobs is putting up,
and he's getting 3 years. He's not getting. He didn't get the franchise tag, and he's making a little bit more than him over 3 years, as opposed to getting tagged for 10, as Jacobs did.
And Saquon's lucky because Saquon was drafted in New York, so there's a ton of endorsement opportunities. Also, he was drafted in 2nd overall. I mean, I'll see that in my nightmares for the rest of my life. But that has some good money in at that point, so he's made more than other guys, but. Like, I mean, Ekeler says it right there. It's just not. If the NFL wants to use fantasy as the backbone for its broader appeal, then these top producers that are drawing people's eyeballs need to be properly compensated. This is insane.
Absolutely. And also another example before we move on is speaking of the draft, like of course, like was Saquon may have been a potential, might have been, especially looking back, an overdraft, taking a running back second overall. He probably was
idiotic.
He probably, in fairness, was maybe the most like kind of explosive and unique running back
athlete
coming out of college. But of course, obviously, given where we know the league has gone, second overall was a large assignment of value to a running back. No,
it wasn't
question.
also just that though. It was also like the context of where the team was, the offensive line sucked.
Right. There were many more needs than getting Saquon at running back.
Mm-hmm.
However, all that being said, I think as a result, there have been far fewer opportunities or far fewer times kind of looking with the Saquon pick in hindsight that teams would ever be willing to go that far to draft a running back in the top 10 or even the top 30.
Yeah.
Of course there have been a few of those in the past few years, but just as an example, Danny Kelly at the Ringer has the Texas running back Bijan Robinson as his number 5 overall player on his big board. That guy is in no way, shape, or form getting drafted anywhere near the top 5 picks.
No.
Just not because he's not talented. He's extremely talented. He's going to make a team very happy. He's phenomenal. He is one of the most talented running back prospects I've seen in recent memory. He's honestly
electric.
He brings to mind not necessarily fully playing styles, but just the feeling of somebody like a Saquon Barkley coming out of Penn State. But there's a real possibility he'll get drafted in the second round.
Yep.
Just because of not because of talent, but just because
I
of
would
fungibility.
put a ton of money
use.
on back half of the first, at least.
Absolutely.
He's not getting drafted in the first 15 picks.
No way.
No way.
It's not anything to do with talent. It's purely just because of where the positional value is now. And so, as you said, because that doesn't change the reality of where the sport's going. But these players deserve so much more protection as a result.
Yeah, and look, guys, it's not just. I understand the NFL is a passing league, but we just saw the 2 teams in the NFC Championship. They're run based. The Eagles and the 49ers. Like, I think it's overstated a little bit. There are a lot of teams that are based in running the football. And that's
a response to defensive coverages, as almost
exactly.
like to where we are in this too high kind of dominant trend now. It's
because the defense has responded. They have a lot of talented secondary players, so now it's like, all
let's
right,
get back to running the ball and again running creatively. You're absolutely right. So therefore,
these changes are not static, guys.
Right, and it's almost more of a justification that they are so much more useful. Running backs are so much more useful that even if you're not spending a huge amount of money on them or for a high value draft pick, that doesn't mean that they should be getting paid $6 million a year when the 4th guy in another team in a wide receiver room is making double that, or even triple that,
or even not even using Ekeler, like being Dameon Pierce making $700,000 or whatever. It's
absolutely.
It's ridiculous.